In just over 5 minutes' time, we will be starting the second half of this FEI World Eventing Championship for under 25 riders, 2026, and the second part of the dressage will start at 2 o'clock. We're delighted to have Connolly's Red Mills as the presenting sponsor for the first running of the FEI World Eventing Championship for under 25 riders, here at the Green Glens Arena in Millstreet. Red Mills is a family business specialising in equestrian nutrition for over 100 years, delivering quality, consistency and service. We're delighted to have an entry of 40 riders for this competition in its first year of running, and to host 5 full teams. At the moment, the team standing after the first 2 riders is as follows. Very, very close. Germany in the lead with a score of 66.7. United States of America second with 66.9. France in third with 67.1. Ireland in fourth with 69.8. And Great Britain in fifth with 71.2. So it's all to play for in the Dressage Arena this afternoon. I'd like to introduce you to the grand jury for this competition, and the president of the grand jury at C is James Rooney for Ireland. At M we have Angela Tucker for Great Britain, and at E, Robin Fisher from the United States of America. The technical delegate for this class is Hunter Doherty of Australia, and Hunter is assisted by Andy Griffiths from Great Britain. So we're all good to go. They have made a great job of getting the arena footing for the very best that we can do, and we're pleased with the weather because it's good horse weather. We also have a very illustrious group of chef d'équipes for these teams. The German team is chef d'équipe is Dr. Annette Barlow. With the United States of America, we have Leslie Law. For France, we have Emily Billard. For Ireland, Sam Griffiths, and for Great Britain, David Sheehan.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Green Glens Arena in Millstreet, County Cork, Ireland, as we get set for day 2 of dressage for the inaugural FEI World Championships for U25 riders. Green Glens Arena here on the edge of the Killarney National Park, and of course looking out back towards Ireland's second city, Cork, the capital of the rebel county and the south of the country. And these conditions and facilities here at Green Glens Arena, second to none. And looking out beyond the sand schools there to the other side of the road, the Dressage Castle complex, where Mike Etherington Smith's cross-country course awaits them tomorrow here for these inaugural championships. 14 nations, 5 fielding full teams, and we already have 1 day of sport under our belts yesterday, and we see those teams lying very, very closely indeed, with just 5 points separating the teams after the first 2 riders, and also in the individual. So far, just 2 scores under 30 penalties. Alta de la Sens and the world #1 ranked U25 rider Calvin Berkman, and Sammy Davis Jr. and Jenny Kuhnle sitting just behind on 29.2. Lisa Gauthieri gets special mention with Edonis, the individual rider for France, sits third on 30 penalties exactly. With this venue playing host to many, many youth championships over the years, and of course initially starting as a huge home of show jumping, and now over many, many years now, nearly 15 years hosting international horse trials. And amongst that time, as I said, a number of previous youth championships, ponies, juniors, young riders, and now selected to host the inaugural FEI Eventing World Championships for the under-25s. This small town of just 1,700 people has in its time played host to world-class boxing, to the Eurovision Song Contest, and to many other events here on the edge of, as I say, Killarney National Park, one of the most beautiful parts of this country here. And down in the southwest, they are rightly proud of everything that goes on in this area, including the equestrian events here at Green Glens.
Members are out of Lexa by Oakland and bred by L. Otter and owned by
So Barney Brotherton is going to be our first to go. Barney riding as an individual for Great Britain. DHI King Nelson, the Dutch warm blood for Barney. Of course, we have seen Barney in good form in his own right at the four-star level, and part of British teams as well, including at Bicton in the Nations Cup series. And of course, the FEI Eventing Nations Cup consistently on FEI TV, and you can look back through the archive as well for all of the results and competition so far in that series that will culminate this year at Boekelo in the Netherlands. For our championships, we're riding the four-star B test. James Rooney of Ireland is the dressage president. Angela Tucker judges at M from Great Britain, and Robin Fisher of the United States of America is our judge on the long side at E. And as we've spoken yesterday, this is a test where the things come at you very, very quickly. Here we are, we're only about 2 movements away from the first halt and salute, and we're into halt and rein back, having already produced some lateral work in trot as well. Barney trending quite positively here for potentially at this stage a top 5. He's previously been a young rider, Europeans rider, as well as again, picking up lots of form at the 4-star level. This pair have actually been international winners together at the 3-star level at Bicton. And again, some of those team tactics, you know, here we are, we're looking at a rider, 23 years old, he's got a couple of years left at this level, but, you know, who maybe could just cruise all the way through for an individual medal, and the chef to keep the team management around him onto David Sheeran have sort of taken that team pressure away from Barney and just given him that open door to ride his own regimen this weekend. Maybe you just asked for the horse to be taking the contact a little bit more forward. It was perhaps a little bit too far down. But overall, again, you're getting the energy, you're getting the extension of the frame whilst maintaining the activity of the walk. And there you are, we see on the screen as well how well this is going for Barney. And, you know, these flying changes are going to make a big difference as well in comparison to some of the others who've been going all right at this point. So if Barney can hold together to the second change as good as that one, and again, with everything being stacked in the test, you ride your first test change very quickly into the canter. You ride the second one having ridden the extended canter, and that, again, you know, so they're coming in 2 very, very different places physically and mentally for horse and rider. I think we'll probably say that was edging on a little bit late behind for Barney. How expensive will that end up being? Might have just kissed goodbye to a sub-30, but maybe not for a podium placing at the moment for Barney. Transition down out of canter then for this final moment to really push the throttles forward, show off your horse, show off the frame and the extension. And you see there, DHI King Nelson just really sitting up as Barney makes the transition down at the end of the long diagonal and prepares here for his final halt and salute. So, U25 World Championship test under his belt for Barney Brotherton and DHI King Nelson.
Barney Brotherton with DHI King Nelson, number 316.
I think perhaps being a little bit rueful looking across at the screen there, he knows that the score could have been that tiny bit more competitive if he'd managed to really get both changes. And certainly a happy horse walking out of the ring. DHI King Nelson looking very, very pleased with it. Lovely test to get us underway for day 2 of competition here in the World Championships. And actually looking set for Barney to go sub 30. We just wait for the score to be confirmed on a screen. If you want to follow along with the scoring from the Millstreet website, of course, it is the wonderful team at reckensteller.de. If you follow along their website, you'll be seeing the live scores coming through.
We welcome into the main arena here at Greenlands. For Australia, individual rider Brooke Dougal. Brooke is riding number 331, My Lucky. This one.
So again, we're looking at a score sub 30 for Barney Brotherton. It's just come in 30.3, so 4th place for Barney Brotherton and DHI King Nelson. Sitting there alongside Lisa Gautieri and Edonis, 2 highly ranked individual riders at the moment in our overall individual leaderboard. Well, 14 nations, and Australia sends us 2 riders. This is Brooke Dougal now with My Lucky, another one of our horses bringing huge experience. 19-year-old My Lucky, Hanoverian bred. Brooke, who has been here with us in Europe, 25 years old. She's been at the 4-star level recently at Kronenberg and at Sopot. I say she is very, very experienced, though, in the sport, even at the age of 25, having groomed for Japanese Olympic show jumper Taizo Sugatani and operating out of his base near Bonn in Germany. And again, of course, it's a huge commitment if you are home-based, if you're Canadian, US, Australia, New Zealand, and anywhere else outside Europe to come to these championships. But it is why the FEI were very, very keen that these be a world championships, because we're so incredibly lucky in Europe with the opportunity to compete internationally at championship level on teams at ponies, juniors, young riders in eventing. You know, there are continental and regional championships elsewhere in the world, but the opportunity to be actually riding for your country rather than just for a region, perhaps, of your country or an area, and really get that whole experience of going up against people who come from those different backgrounds, those different training backgrounds. And as I say, the U25 championships confirmed to be in Europe again next year. It will be in Oxfordshire in Great Britain at Cornbury. And after that, who knows, the world quite literally our oyster. So Brooke here and My Lucky are another one who are, I say another one, it's going to be the first we see today, but around about that 35, 36 penalty mark. And we're going to, we already have a lot of them, we're going to end up with a lot of them. And here again, you know, so what are we seeing? We're looking at the extended walk, and we're seeing a horse that's just not really settling in the head and neck contact. It's not bringing that contact out and forward. And with that, perhaps we're not getting the full extension of the frame and the real activity and step through in the extended walk. So whilst it does look an active walk, it's certainly going somewhere. It's certainly relaxed in its way. It's not just ticking all the boxes. So the judges aren't able to get in behind it and really boost the marks much above those 6s and 6.5s that we've seen this pair averaging at. And again, it's going to be that layer of polish that just really delivering against the idea for each of these movements, the judging concept. But as I was keen to stress yesterday, the judges at whatever level, whatever star level, whatever be championship, be it any ordinary CCI short, they are trying to be constructive. They are trying to give the marks. They're trying to reward where they see good training and good execution of training. Brooke Dougal and My Lucky, of course, as I say, we do have the two riders for Australia with us here, and that's Lamosa Valicia, who we'll see later on with Call Me Cooley. The two Australians getting drawn to go on this second day of dressage with us here in Millstreet, Brooke Dougal and My Lucky at that final centre line and completing their test, and that is our first Australian to ride at the World Eventing U25 Championships.
Representing Australia with My Lucky, number 331.
We have a couple of more nations to get off the start line. During the course of the afternoon today, we are going to see our first rider for Hungary, our first rider for Sweden as well, and our rider representing Poland, and then we will have had all 14 nations down the centre line of dressage at this inaugural World Championships. So each and every one of our 39 going to be part of history.
Score for Brooke Dougal, representing Australia with My Lucky, number 331, 36.3.
So Brooks score through with My Lucky, 36.3, going into 16th position, just behind Paul Borasoda and Eclat de Varenne, the rider for Spain. As we had a couple of times yesterday, we are just a tiny bit ahead of ourselves. We are actually about 3.5 minutes in front of the start time for Edoardo Fortini for Italy, with Cooley showtime. And of course, the trainers will be working very closely with their riders to deliver them for that start time. And I know the stewards won't be putting any pressure on. They will be just working with the athletes. And that just means that we do end up with these couple of pauses every so often. We just gave the starting interval here at Millstreet 7 minutes. The test takes about 4 minutes to ride, so it is quite easy to get up in front. But we just wanted them to be under no pressure and to have a nice time working through the warm-up rings and coming up into this very atmospheric main ring. The interesting thing I was hearing talked about is how the main arena is riding very, very differently here to normal, because with the championship setup, they've put just the one dressage court, as the Americans call it, and I think that's quite good, one set of white boards out here in the main arena, whereas normally there would be two. So normally your horse, if it is a horse that gets a little bit lonely, would have another horse out there with it, whereas here with the championship setup, single ring, that is our focus, then the riders have to really get their horses ready to come up and perform alone in that ring.
Italy, this is Edoardo Fortini. Edoardo is riding number 315, Cooley Showtime. This is a KWPN, 17-year-old Bay Gelding, by Chinchin out of Menone, by Julia.
So here is Edoardo Fortini.
The breeder was Dennebrun from the Netherlands. And the
first of two for Italy. We'll see Matilde Pivani later on as well. And there you see the Azzurri, the bright blue that the Italian Federation have adopted in the last couple of years. The president at sea, James Rooney, giving the tone. And Italy's first rider for the championships will make his debut as well. Horse, of course, coming through the Cooley Sport Horse program here in Ireland, but it is a Chin-Chin bred Dutch warm blood, now 17 Cooley Showtime. Cooley Showtime we knew from the yard of Tim and Janelle Price, just being a little bit fussy there on the centre line. Just kicking over the traces a tiny bit in terms of just obedience for 23-year-old Edoardo Fortini, team gold medalist at Young Riders in 2023 when the championships were held in Italy at Montelibretti. So this horse is set up, you know, very, very compact in his way of going, in his frame. So Eduardo's going to have to do a little bit of work, particularly in the extensions, to really offer the head and neck contact up, out and forward. You see there a little bit of a loss of straightness in the rein back, and again, going back to that head and neck contact, which is, you know, it is just sitting, unfortunately, just that little bit behind the vertical. Eduardo doing as much as he can with his hands, but when he asked then for the rein back, it just tucked its nose in that little bit closer to the chest, which is a natural thing to happen. You know, the ultimate aim for a 10 in the rein back is to maintain, what is it, a forward expression whilst moving backwards. It is a movement that's very much about thinking forward whilst moving back. And this is a horse that didn't express that. So, you know, that's going to be a place where the judges are going to come in against them. But all the time that this horse is just looking for the little bit of comfort and balance by bringing, sucking the head and neck back in that little bit closer to the chest than we'd like to see in something approaching self-carriage. That is going to be something that the judges will have to just make a deduction for. Here, we've got great swing to the walk, but it is unfortunately because it is just bubbling below trot. This is in danger of just boiling over at any second, and Eduardo doing his very, very best, but unfortunately it cannot be a good walk score. Again, actually does a nice job because the horse was very, very anticipatory. You see the extended walk score in the background. The horse was very, very anticipatory of that upward transition to canter. It knew it was coming. Actually, not a bad change there as we get going. Maybe this canter will just pour a little bit of oil on troubled waters, particularly maybe the extended to come up in a second. Actually, two pretty good changes here for the Italians, so, you know, that'll make up some ground. But Eduardo still, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult to pick yourself up out of that average mark accrued between 6 and 6.5, as it has been for the young Italian, 23 years old. And we'll see that is going to go into the milieu, probably just outside the top 15 at the moment. You see 23rd there. It might not end up being quite that bad with a mark or two still to come in, especially this last centre line. Again, you know, it's active, it's straight. There's a lot to like, and going back to the judges wanting to be constructive as well. You know, they'll be trying to find every positive they can for our first of two Italian riders.
Riding number 315, pretty showtime.
Well, unfortunately, I was a little bit too positive. 40.7 comes through as the score from our team here for Edoardo Fortini and Cooley Showtime. So that will be one of 4 over 40 penalties. And just languishing towards the end of the leaderboard at the moment. But of course, 3 busy days of competition for these horse and rider pairs, with cross country tomorrow, and then all being well through the horse inspection on Sunday morning and back for the show jumping finale. once then, we have a little bit of time in hand before our next partnership here. Felicia Andre for Sweden, Felicia with her Oldenburger bred Una Cardenta. Say a big week of sport here, but actually not as big as it sometimes is with, again, the focus on the World Championships class. The team here at Millstreet elected not to run quite as many divisions as they normally do. So normally, I think it would be 2, maybe more, full days of cross-country. And the famous Irish eventing dog, Boris, keeping a close eye on proceedings as Felicia Andre joins us here in the main ring at Green Glens. And this is our sole representative in the championships for Sweden. And one of the interesting decisions taken, and very sensible decision, was that the U25 championships, uniquely amongst the youths, you can ride the senior championships the same year. If you ride juniors or young riders and you are incredibly talented, you cannot ride the seniors the same year. And this was a decision taken to allow both to happen, so that if a nation had a number of very, very young riders who are A-squad senior riders, but that they did have a second horse perhaps, or the timings worked out, that they wouldn't ignore the U25 championships because they were going to the seniors. Just so we could build the field and make sure that, you know, the access was there, because this is also at a star level below continental here in Europe or World Championships. So Felicia and Una Cardenta positive down into their first halt. The 11-year-old mare, unfortunately, just looking a bit up and bright through the bridle there at the first halt, but back on the contact now for Felicia as she starts a test. It's a first championship for her. This is a debut year at the 4-star level. They went very well in the young riders, or the U25 4-star at Bretoni this year. And another one who also picked up some 4-star form at Royal Jump. Royal Jump at Chaumont-en-Vexin in France was enormously popular with the competitors for our U25 championship. A lot of them picking up a consolidating or a confirmatory 4-star run at the French venue. A little bit sliding the feet backwards across the ground, and I think Felicia did a very, very nice job there of, she didn't hold on to the halt very well, but I don't think she really had a choice, so she just decided to go for it rather than sitting there really trying to establish the halt and picking a little bit of a fight with her horse. And again, a little bit like Eduardo, you know, a lot of this is about the top line. Just the consistency in the outline of the horse, the head and neck position in particular, and therefore, you know, that we're seeing we're not approaching on the scales of training that wonderful achievement of self-carriage. Completing the extended walk, so gathering the contact back up. And the upward transition to canter, and you see again just losing the shape, losing the partnership a tiny bit through the upward transition, and then they never really got themselves together and in open conversation before that flying changes on them. And that goes back to what we were saying about how intense this test is, with the movements coming at you very, very quickly. Just and then Felicia establishing the half pass away from the boards after that second change. Ready for this final short moment, deep into the corner, and then setting up for actually what turned out for them to be quite a nice transition down into trot. Ready for this final diagonal. So our one representative of Sweden, Fred Bergendorf, the Swedish team chef to keep here with his U25 rider, and of course in the next stage of his mind thinking about the couple of weeks time with the World Championships to come, with Olympic qualification on the line. It's a shame, as a lot of that was about being settled, and we saw that really come through in the final halt, where Felicia's mare, Una Caradenta, just wouldn't stand really in that final halt. We saw it a little bit in the halt and rein back halt as well, which I'll remark, as I did yesterday, in this test, if you're very familiar with like the pure dressage tests and just our natural cliche way of saying it, halt and rein back. In our eventing tests, we tend to, and we do in this test, give the halt and then the rein back as separate moves, so that if you get one right and the other wrong, again, the judges can be constructive, they can work with you, they can help build your score. So regrettably, looks like it is going to go Taylor and Charlie on the leaderboard there, just outside our top 20 for Felicia Andre and Una Caradenta. We will bring you that just as soon as it is inputted by all three judges, and it is through now. 43.1 for Felicia and Una Caradenta. And that's the score they will take out across country here with us tomorrow at Millstreet. Mike Etherington-Smith, who's been designer here since day one, setting the track for these inaugural championships, and doing a great job. And actually, he's made some real nice, unique parts and options for the championships, so that everyone, if they ride sensibly, they have the opportunity to get around it. Now, it might be with time penalties, but they can get around and jump this track. And of course, then, as it should be, the straight route is for the winners, because if you go the straight route all the way around this track, you should feel very, very good about how you and your horse have gone.
To be drawn, and this is Karis McCauley. Karis riding for Great Britain with 327.
So after that group of individual riders starting off our day two, we go now to the third rider rotation for each of our 5 teams. Karis McCauley, another member of the podium of the British National Under-25 Championships at Bramham in Yorkshire this year, joins us as the number 3 for Great Britain. Karis with the Irish sport horse Kananauskas, formerly campaigned by her partner and Richard Coney. Just a year since this partnership made their debut at 4-star level at Bergham in Northumberland, and top 15 at Bramham this year. And Karis riding in a British flag for the first time in her career, and of course Britain debuting their new Mulberry, perhaps, Union flag for the under-25 eventers. Kananauskas, named after a very, very scenic part of Alberta, just outside Calgary, is an 18-year-old Irish sport horse by Ustinov. Maybe a little bit sudden off the boards into that half circle. Maybe just a tiny tick down in the swing speed and the pace would have just helped them give a little bit more balance. Incredible halt to come to out of that sort of approach speed. The big thing really for this pair is, you know, when you have this very, very active, almost busy trot, it's showing the other paces within trot, showing the medium, showing the extended when you are asked to do it, and making sure that there is a real difference. To Keris McCauley, Kananaskis just about to step off to their long diagonal of extended walk here, and sitting on a very, very positive score as a team rider here as well. What's currently on the screen would put them on the podium. It will do Great Britain no harm either in the team, but of course, Keris just the first of this group of team riders, so it could all change. It could all become quite dynamic now. So the extended walk has just ticked over 30 penalties, and unfortunately not the highest scoring flying change we're going to see. Is just Kananaskis gets a little bit squirrely through the body. Yeah, this was always going to be the party piece for this pair. A good extension. Transitions at the beginning and end of that extended canter as well, and we're seeing a much more positive flying change. Just saw some fours. I think they might have just popped a change in the extended when I was busy reveling in the pace and the ground cover. So coming here to the final extended trot for Keris. Again, it won't be a story that we tell for the last time today. Is just, you know, just missing out on the clear round, as it were, in dressage. A couple of errors, and they are very, very expensive because these scores are stacked up incredibly tightly. So from a place potentially on the podium a few minutes ago, and then the canter work putting them down probably towards the bottom of our best 10 scores for Keris, and that is going to put a little bit of pressure on the British team position as well. But yes, it all needs to be analysed, it all needs to be thought about, but there are two very busy, very important days yet for all of these riders and all of these teams.
So now we welcome into the main arena here for this under-25 World Eventing Championship for the United States of America, Olivia Dutton.
So a famous name, and starting to become a famous name in her own right, Olivia Dutton, of course, daughter of multiple Olympic medalist Philip Dutton, who himself getting ready for the World Championships at Aachen. Olivia here with the Irish-bred Duelant. Rowbottom-bred full sibling to Rosalind, we know so well, ridden by Oliver Townend. Olivia has been partnered with some incredible horses in her youth career. She was a gold medalist at North American Young Rider Championships a couple of years ago at Rebecca Farm. Olivia won her Young Rider Gold at the age of 16 in Rebecca Farm with Mr. Medicott. That wonderful servant, of course, had been an Olympian for both Germany and for the United States of America. And we see her as well at the top level with the thoroughbred See the Stars, another horse that she took over from her father. And actually, that's becoming less about him passing on, you know, schoolmasters like Mr. Medicott into, he has a fellow professional in his yard, and sometimes these horses are going to go better for Olivia. Juland again, another one to just relatively obviously lose the straightness in that rein-back. And the judges will be just eagle-eyed for all those little nuances, but it's a lovely swing to this trot. You see it really covers the ground as they come out of that half circle and build up into this half pass. Very, very, very obedient and settled in the contact. And actually, just as we get a little bit more of the side view, it comes more towards us. You can really see that we are getting the overtrack. We do have, you know, the extension happening. So that should be a real positive for them. And it's a place where other people have lost marks. So, you know, it's a good place to be picking them up. Maybe a tiny bit timid and conservative in the pace of canter they've picked up, and maybe that's why. Unfortunately, we're just a little bit stuck in the first change. And it's so easy to sit here and go, oh, why didn't they pick up a canter that was, you know, in a similar vein to their trot, and then really engage and ride up to that change. But they're the riders in the plate, on the horse, on the day. And again, the horse could be feeling very, very different to how it normally does. You know, sometimes a big championship ring, you ride in through the arch and all your warm-up has been based on the horse growing and becoming quite lit up. And this particular day, your horse comes in through the championship arch into a ring on their own, and they become a little bit shy and close down, or vice versa. And it's about knowing your horse so well that you get the warm-up, you get the partnership and the development right. It'll be the third rider for the USA. The best of the USA at the moment is Meg Pellegrini, with the 5-star horse of Will Coleman's Don Dante, sitting inside our top 10. And this is going to be a broadly similar score coming in from Olivia Dutton and Juland. We will get that score in just a few moments. Keris, McCauley and Kananauskas, their predecessors in the ring, being posted now a 32.5 score for Great Britain. So a nice solid test there from Olivia Dutton. So we just unfortunately hone in there certainly on one of the downbeats, as it will be for several. and the flying changes, and Olivia getting a 35.8, which will sit 16th at the moment, just behind individual rider for the USA, Molly Duda and Disco Traveller. So we've seen the third team rider for Great Britain, and for the United States of America, it is France who are going to send us there next here in just a moment. The Anglo-Arab Upsilon bred Eau Vive de Bren and Varenne Nico, one of the top 10 on the world U25 rankings.
We welcome into the arena the third member for France. This is Varenne Nico. Varenne rides number 320, Eau Vive de Bren AA. This is an Anglo-Arab 12-year-old.
So Varenne Nico and Eau Vive de Bren for the French team. The French team, of course, right in that mix earlier on today with the 5 teams all within 5 penalties, covering the whole spread after day 1 of sport. So we'll see what happens now as we get on through this third rider rotation. The best French team rider is Clara Cazeneuve, and Dolce & Gabbana sitting in 5th place, but actually the highest ranked French rider is one of their individuals, Lisa Gauthieri and Edonis. The 12-year-old by the wonderful 4-star multiple winner, Upsilon. Tiny bit sudden, unfortunately, with that downward transition to the halt. Varenne, a young rider team gold medalist last year at Stragom. Top 10 at Stragom with this horse in 4-star, and actually a top 5 in the 4 long at Protoni. Of course, Protoni, our World Championships venue 4 years ago in Italy. And this partnership have also been on a winning French Nations Cup team in the series at Stragom in Poland. Nice clear steps in the rein back. Picking up the walk then, our third team rider for France. It is very, very interesting from that camera angle to be a watch, like how much they're using that top end of the ring, how deep they're going into the corners. Getting that upward transition to canter. Again, we've seen the score improve that little bit. We were sitting at 38. We're down now about 36. And again, it's a shame that that just doesn't come through, because one of the things certainly that has kind of come through, if you were describing this partnership, is, you know, that it's an obedient horse. They are, you know, they're in sync with each other. For sure, there could be more polish. There could be more pizzazz. There could be more quality. But certainly, until it comes to the flying changes, or flying change one of so far, we were looking at a horse that's really just executing and being very, very obedient, and therefore with that being able to be quite accurate as well. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed after the first time not to see the rider just prepare a little bit more and really create some collection out of that corner and that turn across the ring as it is, which comes up quite sudden for that second flying change. But again, you never quite know whether this is a horse, when you put that little bit of pressure on, they become very, very familiar with the tests, these horses. If you come and you put that little bit of pressure on, you ask for the collection, whether they might go early, whether they might completely just ignore the idea of the change and just become a tiny bit stressed about it all. So Varenne Nico and Ovive de Bren plough their furrow, choose their line, and we will see their score here in a moment. Actually, Varenne score coming through pretty quick there with Ovive. We're getting a 37.6 on our system, which would sit just outside the top 20. It means that Great Britain and France remain very, very close together. There is just 0.2 of a penalty between them. Great Britain after 3 riders on 104.1, France on 104.7. But both, of course, will be looking to improve their position with their 4th and final team rider. USA, the best so far of the teams for which we have seen 3 riders on 102.7.
And Ovive de Bren AA, 37.6.
Just a stunning part of the world. Clara Mountain just overlooking us here at the back of the showground. Some of the officials tramped up there yesterday morning as the sun was coming up on what turned out to be a beautiful clear day here as well, with wonderful views across the showground, the village, and on then to the cross-country course as well, the other side of the road here in Millstreet, which looks absolutely stunning just in its general presentation, but then the details and the presentation of Mike Etherington-Smith's track, built by Sylvek and the team here at Millstreet, just really is a proper championship. I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing how it goes for these 39 riders here tomorrow. There's James Rooney with his team. Our president of the jury for the World Championships. Angela Tucker of Great Britain then is our judge at M when you look at the scores, and Robin Fisher of the United States of America giving the judges from the long side at E. So 13 rider to come for Ireland and for Germany, and then just before the break we're going to take another individual rider. It is our sole rider from Hungary, Nicholas Müller.
So now we welcome into the main arena here at Millstreet the third team member for Ireland. This is Tom Nestor. Tom will be riding number 314. for Cooley Diamond Dancer. This is a 14-year-old Irish sport horse gelding by Jack of Diamonds, out of Lucy Brewery by Cruising. The breeder, Claire McDonald, and the owner, David Nestor.
So Tom Nestor, one of our youngest riders in this championships at 19 years old, already representing Ireland at pony, junior and young rider level. And actually with this horse, Cooley Diamond Dancer, on 2 occasions before as well. Twice team silver, and Tom has also been a junior individual silver medalist. So we're very close to having our the Olympics represented in Calvin Buchmann, who was the reserve for Germany with Phantom of the Opera at Paris. Tom, in his case, has borrowed a set of tails. So we do get the Irish Olympic rings down the centre line. But that is not yet, I would say, for Tom. It's quite interesting and you know, not unusual, but you see Tom working quite hard there with the legs, just trying to squeeze the horse up and just get the engagement, but is doing so without spurs. And you might say, well, wouldn't it just be easier to wear, like even just a small button spur? But a very, very sensitive horse, you know, that could be just a disaster. And actually, it's a rule change brought in a few years ago to allow the riders to compete without spurs. They used to be mandatory. Just looking for our running total of about 37, yeah, 38 you see there on the screen in the background of our shot. Just very, very interesting watching Tom's eyes, you know, flicking from the horse in front of him up to where he's going. Up and down back, being, again, very, very conscious of how valuable accuracy can be. And making sure that, you know, when you get down into the corner of the ring, it doesn't come as a surprise. You are ready to make the transition. Pushing the throttles forward for this extended canter. And now the second flying change for Tom Nestor, Cooley Diamond Dancer. Nice change, actually. They were always say the best of the Irish team is Jennifer Kuhnler and Sammy Davis Jr. sitting in an individual medal position at the moment with a sub-30 score. Let's see where Tom is going to place on our overall individual leaderboard and what he will contribute to the Irish team. Let's say sub-35 there has the potential to go comfortably inside the top 10 at the moment as we get towards our final judging break. We'll get the overall score in just a moment and see how it impacts the team position as well going into the second day cross-country for Tom Nestor and Cooley Diamond Dancer.
So now we welcome into the arena the third of the German team riders. This is Linus Weiss riding.
So a very good chance if it is going to be 34 or so for Tom Nestor that we'll see Ireland at almost the exact same score as Great Britain and France, both on 104. And there's our German rider. Tom Nestor's score is now through with Cooley Diamond Dancer. It's actually not quite. 32.9 we're still seeing provisionally for him. It's Linus Weiss and Estrello, third team rider for Germany, just have their final moments around the arena here.
So we have a provisional score for Tom Nestor for Ireland with number 314, Cooley Diamond Dancer, 32.7.
32.7, so it's actually going to be the same score as Amy Rose Fruerwerth and Gin Tonic of Austria, and with 32.7 added also to Ireland's score. It's actually going to put them on about 102, 103, so it'll actually put Ireland right up into the mix. They will be in the mix for a team medal, whatever happens here with the final German rider. But will it be silver, will it be bronze after the third rider rotation? Well, that all depends on how this test goes for Linus Weiss. Linus with the 17-year-old Estrello. The horse that Linus has been riding for quite a few years. They've done the European CCI three-star short championships, what used to be called the European Cup and the Rural Riders. And this partnership went to four-star for the first time last year and actually have a very, very good result at Marbach in the four-star there. Marbach stepping in as the Nations Cup this year leg in Germany and has always been a very, very good early season four-star, attracting some top names and giving a lot of experience and set up for the year ahead at Marbach, coming as it does in May each year. Nice engaged walk. I mean, you can see overall just the polish and the way of going here, translating to that positive score we're seeing. You know, and on a 31, we're talking about top 5, really. Did a little bit of a jump behind, so you end up with not the cleanest of flying changes, but we're not seeing too many changes for a 10, so Linus will be hoping can somewhat stay in the mix. But the difference between the score you see on the screen now, 35, and the score we were talking about a moment ago, 31, is a big one in terms of ranking. And 4 extra points on the German team score as well will have its own impact and keeping the team competition very, very close together. And really opening up the throttles here. Great extension and lift in that last moment where they can really wow the judges. Of course, everything for a 10. Just, again, a little bit sudden maybe with the turn up the center line there. And our final rider then for Germany in this rotation. And our final third rider rotation rider. Linus Weiss and Estrella will post their score. And looks like from having been, potential top 5 and comfortably in front, say, of Tom Nestor and Cooley Diamond Dancer, they're probably going to be a couple of places behind. We'll just keep a very, very close eye on it. But if things, for instance, stayed as they were at the moment, after the third rider rotation and counting all the scores, not dropping any scores, we would see our teams, having been 5 penalties between first and second, come down to 3 penalties, maybe even 2 between first and fifth.
Provisional score for the third team member for Germany.
So Linus Weiss and Estrella does come in at 33.8 provisionally, which is going to make Germany's score 101.4. So after the third rider rotation, it is Germany, the USA, and Ireland. But 101.4 for Germany, 102.7 for the USA, 102.9 for Ireland, 104.1 for Great Britain, and 104.7 for France. It is incredibly close. Meanwhile, no changes to our individual podium placings during this first session of day 2. Calvin Bachmann and Altair de la Sens remain our individual leaders. Sammy Davis Jr., ridden by Jennifer Kuhnle, in silver, and Edonis and Lisa Gauthieri, the French individual rider, currently sitting in bronze after dressage.
And we welcome into the arena for Hungary, Nicholas Müller. Nicholas riding as an individual, number 330, Mandover.
Well, in the Hungarian uniform, serving as a sports soldier, in the same way that Calvin Bachmann is in Germany. And indeed, in the same way that next year, Amy Rose Fruwerth of Austria will be, as part of her nation's service and sport high performance program. Amy Rose is actually Nicholas's partner. So we have the 2 of them here at the championships representing Austria and Hungary. Nicholas Müller and Mandobel join us here for this group, and this will be the last before the judging break. Nicholas has already represented Hungary 3 times at European Championships, all with this horse, with juniors and young riders form, including coming to Hartbury for the juniors a couple of years ago in Gloucestershire in Great Britain. This year, they've been top 10 at a 4-star just outside Vienna in Austria. And this horse, even with all those championship appearances already, is just 13 years old. And interestingly, a Spanish-bred horse here for Nicholas. So unfortunately, quite a large score building up here, closer to 40 than 35 for Nicholas Müller and Mandoble, just walking across in their extended walk, and then on the short side they pick up the canter just by the open gate today, but it has been consistent for all of the riders. Actually doesn't do a bad job just achieving that second change, getting it done, making it happen. So our single rider for Hungary just going to come out of this corner now and into the final extension, the final transition downwards, and then the extension across this long diagonal. And we will go into a short break here in judging, ready for our final group, which will also, it'll bring us to the end of our run of individuals and take us through our final 5 team riders and see exactly how this inaugural World Championships is going to be set up going into cross-country day here tomorrow.
World Eventing Championship for under 25 riders. That was Nicholas Müller, individual rider for Hungary, with 330 Mandoble. So we have a short break now, and the next horse and rider will be coming in at 15:24.
So if you're planning the rest of your afternoon's sport with us, 24 minutes past 3 is Gunilla Moser Velisha for Australia. And that is local time here in Ireland with Call Me Cooley. And say we'll have riders for Australia, Italy, Poland, New Zealand, and then we'll get into that final group of team riders. We're just standing by here for the score for Nicholas Müller and Mandoble. Let's see whether they're going to get in or outside that 40 penalty mark as final rider. Just say there you are, the time of our next horse and rider due down the centre line. We'll just see whether we get this score for Nicholas before we take that pause ourselves here. Well, being announced as a 39 for Nicholas Müller and Mandoble. We will come back and confirm that. But as I say, no change to the individual podiums during this third group of dressage here at Millstreet.
can just give you some results so far after 3 riders from each of the countries, each of the 5 countries, and at present Germany's score is 101.4 in the lead. United States very close behind, 102.7. Ireland on 102.9. Great Britain on 104.1. And France on 104.7. So couldn't be closer. So the last horse and riders, the 4th one for each team, have it all to do. So we're getting ready to start again in this final session of the FEI World Eventing Championships for under 25 riders here at Millstreet. And we start off with some more individual riders before we come to the 5 team riders, the last 5 to do the dressage today. And we welcome in Limosa Felicia from Austria. Limosa rides number 310, Call Me Cooley. This is a 15-year-old bay gelding Irish sport horse by Daniel Felicia and is owned by the Felicia family.
Welcome back then to Millstreet as we get set for our final group of dressage here in the FEI World Eventing Championships for U25 riders, presented by Connolly's Red Mills. And we get back underway with Australia's Limosa Felicia and Call Me Cooley. 2 riders here from Australia for this inaugural edition of the championships, one of 14 nations to be represented. Limosa just 19 years old. So again, one of our younger riders, alongside Tom Nestor, who we saw just before the break as the 3rd rider for Ireland. Winner at home in Australia of 2 4-star competitions in the space of a month at Ballarat and at Werribee with this horse, Call Me Cooley. Also won at Wandon Park at the 3-star level back in March. Call Me Cooley, of course, another of the Cooley horses. This one, though, bred in Ireland. And then spent some time going up to the international advanced level in the UK with Molly Faulkner. Limosa, current number 6 in the FEI Eventing U25 World Rankings. This, of course, probably one of the longest trips to join us here, flying her horse up all the way from Australia. Very, very good score as we just see Limosa through that halt and rein back and continuing on through the trot work now. Again, this evolution of shoulder in, half circle, half pass. All through the 3rd block of horses, we didn't see any change to our individual podium. And now it could be straight as we go into this 4th block that Limosa breaks into the top echelons and really justifies the fundraising, the effort to get themselves here onto the start list for these championships at Millstreet. Nice walk here from the 15-year-old Irish horse. Again, there's enough 7s and 7.5s coming in here to just keep that tendency sub 30. Yeah, you'll see there when we catch up with the extended walk on our on-screen graphic, we will be just over the 30 penalty mark with 6s across the boards for that, and I'm afraid it's not going to be a super score for the first flying change, just being a little bit then more careful with the canter. She finishes that line, sets up here for the extended. So Limosa and Call Me Cooley, not the first of the day actually to have been right there in the mix, but then it didn't quite stick with them right the way through to the end of the test. But what a start with that trot work. Again, sadly, the 2 flying changes are just not going to be clean and high scoring. A little bit of a stutter through the transition there as well, down from canter to trot. And again, the smoothness of those transitions, how well they're executed, big part of the movement and the mark that is available. So our second rider for Australia, we saw Brooke Dougal earlier on with My Lockie, and they sit on 36.3. It's going to be a better score, but not by as much, I think, as they would have hoped there for Lamosa Felicia and Call Me Cooley. Really, really strong start in the trot work. The judges were really enjoying what they saw, and we were dicing with, individual silver medal position in the dressage going into this final group. But then, unfortunately, the walk and the canter work just didn't come together. Those flying changes, neither of them were going to be very, very high scoring, sadly, for the partnership.
We welcome into the arena, representing Italy as an individual rider,
Mathilde Piovani and Bourne West join us now here in the main ring at Green Glen's Millstreet. Mathilde with the 15-year-old Sol Francais Bourne West. Mathilde, 25 years old, an owner rider, has been a three-time youth championship rider for Italy in the past. Twice with the young rider team on this horse. The medalists together, team bronze at Ségejau.
And we have a score for Lamosa Felicia, representing Australia as an individual rider on Call Me Cooley 310, 34.4.
So just hearing there, waiting for it to come through, 34.4 for Lamosa Felicia and Call Me Cooley. If that comes through, that will be top 15 then. Italy here with the two individuals we already saw. Edoardo Fortini earlier on, as Mathilde just picks up the canter then, ready for the center line of this championship appearance. First Italian rider, Edoardo, with one of those scores just over 40. So Mathilde here to try and achieve the best Italian dressage score of the day, the afternoon. Again, a useful just snapshot in the back there of where we are with our top four. It is still Calvin Bockman, Jennifer Kuhnler, Lisa Gautieri, Barney Brotherton just off the podium in fourth, and Clara Cazeneuve, French team rider, in fifth. So out of that top five, three of them team riders, two individuals right there in the mix, as you would often expect at these championships. Yeah, this is trending quite nicely in the low 30s here for Mathilde. Just looking across the arena now for the landing point at the end of this long diagonal and extended walk. Lots to like about the extended walk. If anything, it could just be a tiny bit more active and sort of deliberate, that it's definitely going somewhere. Again, just doing a nice job, just chipping away at the scores, getting better and better. Really rode good transition to this extended canter. And I think if you were the judge at E, seeing that side on, you'd really enjoy this riding out across the... And clearly, it's done no harm to the score as well. We drop another penalty point down to 31. Building up towards the conclusion of their championship test here, our second rider for Italy. Italy represented by individuals, but with a team that have been very, very successful at youth championships in recent years, including young rider Team Gold. I don't think it's going to be long before we see Italy become another nation to be represented by a full team at these U25 championships as they gather steam over the years ahead. And Mathilde Piovani and Bourne West. Going to be a very, very positive score. You know, 31. Let's not forget, you know, we're talking about 35 and 31. We have our whole podium is just 30 and under. So when you're on 31, you're going to be right in the mix. And actually, if Mathilde was to stay where she was with Bourne West, she would be looking at top 5, just behind Barney Brotherton. But of course, devil in the detail. There's 1 or 2 scores to come in and be confirmed before we see. And it might be that Clara Cazeneuve and Dolce Gabbana hold on to their 5th place on 31.7. So better than we expected, 30.2 then for Mathilde Piovani and Bourne West, and on that basis by 0.1 of a penalty, goes in front of Barney Brotherton into 4th, and is only 0.2 of a penalty behind Lisa Gautieri and Edonis in bronze medal position.
Mathilde Piovani with Bourne West, 30.2. Now we welcome into the arena the individual rider from Poland, Katarina Brandis. Katarina rides number 333, Cel Oscar.
Our Polish rider, Katarina Brandis. Katarina, 21 years old, has been on championship teams before when the championships have been held at home in Stragom. 4-star victory at home in Stragom as well, with another horse, or with this horse, sorry, SEL Oscar, our sport horse by Polanski, rather appropriately for a horse that has ended up then representing Poland. Katarina and SEL Oscar were part of the Nations Cup team for Poland this year at home in Stragom as well. And as I was saying to you, FEI TV carrying the whole FEI Eventing Nations Cup series right through to those finals at Boekelo in the Netherlands this year. This again working in the lateral work, coming in quite nicely on the 3 tracks there we see, and we've got a good angle to see that for this half circle and back to half pass. So combination sitting just outside the 40 penalty barrier though, with the scores that we have to hand at the moment. You say we've already got those 5 scores over 40 in our championships, but again, you know, it feels like a long way today with 20 penalties and time penalties being a big part of the cross country. Who knows what tomorrow evening's leaderboard could look like here in this FEI Eventing World Championships for U25 riders. So just unfortunately scooting through a little bit of evasion of the contact and the aids through that flying change attempt for Katarina and SEL Oscar. So sitting relatively resolutely there above the 40 penalties. I know we have a couple of scores not quite making it to that graphic as we look at it at the moment, but we can also see in the arena that that is just about the trending score, unfortunately, for our Polish individual rider, SEL Oscar. Katarina Brandis leaving us with just 1 individual contender remaining before we go into our final run of team riders here at Millstreet. It's sounding like it's going to be just a little bit better than we're seeing there on screen. 40.2 then for Polish rider Katarina Brandis and SEL Oscar. And that is going to go inside the top 30. Just behind Ann-Katrin Bierlein, German rider, German team rider, here with us at these championships. So to say one more individual rider to go, it's going to be our rider for New Zealand, Charlotte Penny. And then those final riders for each of the teams: Jasmine Underwood for Great Britain, Cassie Sanger for the USA, Charlotte Bodas of France, Godfrey Gibbons for Ireland here, the home side, and Nicholas Goldbeck for Germany to finish off their campaign in the dressage and our day and 2 days of dressage here. You can see how busy the other arenas are as well, the warm-up pads for the second competition arena, and also just the opportunities to exercise and get set for the tests ahead for those who have completed their dressage. Some short formats running over the weekend. All of the competitions from Millstreet are available on Clip My Horse over the weekend, so you can tune in and pick up all of the main arena dressage, the cross country throughout the day tomorrow, and the main arena show jumping on Sunday. We have some short format classes as well that will be conversely show jumping tomorrow and out on the cross country on Sunday as well, just to give you a context of just how busy a weekend it is here in the south of Ireland. But here on FEI TV, our focus throughout the weekend, the FEI Eventing World Championships for U25, and Charlotte Penny and Carousel flying the flag for New Zealand. 24-year-old Charlotte with the horse that was produced by New Zealand World Championship team medalist Monica Spencer. Charlotte has won the eventing title at the Horse of the Year show. She's also won the 4-star long at Taupo, an event with a great lineage and history. It's been going for a very long time, one of the top events in the world and out in that side of the world as well. Carousel is actually just an 11-year-old, a New Zealand Hanoverian by Grasshopper out of a thoroughbred mare. Again, just presenting quite a smart picture here early on in the test, and comfortably sitting in front of that 35 penalty, 65% line in the sand. Which again, if you are sub 35 here, you're going to be about top 15 as things currently stand. Just having to work quite hard to really engage this walk, to just make it feel like it's actually going somewhere. And that, count against them even more if they can't just get kind of up in front of the leg on this extended walk on the long diagonal. Again, just regrettably just dropping back behind the 35 penalty line, but we're going to see so many. It's like a bell curve around 35. And here again, we're just not going to get that highest mark because they just stepped a little bit out of their rhythm, you know, just slightly conflating speed with extension there on the final diagonal for Charlotte and Carousel. And finally settles into a nice square hold, but again, bouncing from the ball of toe to the ball of the toe for a second or two as they try to bring their test to its conclusion. And again, the devil in the detail in this dressage here, particularly at World Championship level.
We have the provisional score for Charlotte Penny, individual rider from New Zealand with 311, Carousel 35.7. So it's all to play for now. We start with the fourth rider of each of the 5 teams. And as I said before, very, very close in the scoring so far. So we welcome in for Great Britain, Jasmine Underwood. Jasmine is riding number 325, Indian Girl G.
Jasmine Underwood then is going to lead off our final rotation of team riders. Jasmine with the anchor leg for Great Britain, 21-year-old, the number 5 in the U25 world rankings.
Jasmine Underwood.
Partnering here with Indian Girl G, Dutch warm blood, 13-year-old by Dantos. This partnership have represented Great Britain 4 times previously with a team medal every time, and were the individual young rider gold medalists at Stragom in 2024. Not their first visit to Ireland or indeed to County Cork, with a podium placing here in 4-star level action at Ballindennisk. Say after the 3rd rider rotation, Great Britain in 4th place, but it is so incredibly close. It will be these 4th and final team riders who start to really make the difference, because then we can get into discard scores with Great Britain with a 32, a 33 and a 38 counting for them at the moment. 2 of the British riders sitting inside the top 10 currently. Keris McCauley and Kananaskis score worth 7th, and Topspin and Alice Casburn's performance so far worth 10th. Nice square hold, pretty attentive. And again, you want to look at the detail. We've got a slight sliding rather than stepping action in the rein back. But I think overall, it should still be a relatively positive score, you know, looking at where we are at the moment, sub 30. But here today, we have yet to see anyone finish sub 30, but we've seen plenty that have been right up there early on in their test, particularly in this trot work at the early stages. Again, very, very nice transition, pretty accurate as well to the marker. Just like the rider before, you'd maybe just want to see a little bit more oomph and engagement in this walk. As Keris looks across now for her aiming marker to try and carry a little bit more up and into the frame of this extension, which I think she gets. I think she shows a nice difference there between the two walks. Yeah, just scrubbing a mark or two, but overall it's a very, very elegant, well put together picture here. And again, just get back below 30. This is a nice place to be, a nice path to be ploughing. Jasmine Underwood and Indian Girl G. So if they can come home just sub 30, they would only be the third to do so. And unlikely to hemorrhage away too many marks on this final line. So that should be a new rider on the potential independent individual podium. Jasmine Underwood and Indian Girl, and therefore that will be a very, very good bonus for Great Britain as we start to get the dressage team scores. That score coming through pretty quickly. 29.3 then for Jasmine Underwood, which means that Great Britain will post a total team score of 95.1, counting best three scores, which is going to be 3rd, 9th and 12th as things currently stand. Jasmine Underwood, Keris McCauley and Alice Casburn, with cross-country trailblazer for both the British and the Championships, Tom Bird, and Lenny's score not too far away either, should it need to come into play.
We welcome in the 4th team member for the United States of America. This is Cassie Sanger. Cassie rides number 323, Fernhill Zora. This is an 18-year-old by gelding, Anglo-Europe from the Anglo-European Studbook, by Verdi TN out of Crimea 2 by Voltaire, bred by Mrs. Drake.
22-year-old Cassie Sanger joins us now with Fernhill Zorro. Cassie was at Kentucky and Burley last year, so 2 5-star completions to her credit. Cassie, who was actually the runner-up in the U25 4-star short at Bramham with Fernhill Zorro in 2024, and also a US Nations Cup rider. Cassie, who's been a big feature of the circuit with us over here in Europe, having spent a couple of summers now training with former world champion and Olympic gold medalist Ross Cantor. And Zorro, an 18-year-old Again, another one of those great Irish prefixes in Fernhill. This one by the incredible jumping sire Verdi. Cassie just, just sitting beautifully, like just presenting an overall very, very smart and very confirmed picture. As you'd expect now, 31, super valuable earlier on, is now down towards the bottom of the top 10. A big jump through on the flying change. I think the judges for the top marks would like to have just seen that a little bit quieter and more within the rhythm of the canter. But again, this is going to be in the mix and will be a useful test for the United States of America. Meg Pellegrini, Quigley Kellerman, and Cassie likely to be the three counting scores. But once again, Olivia Dutton and Juland, if they do become the discard on their 35.8, it would only be adding about 2 more points to the team total for the USA. So Fernhill Zorro, Cassie Sanger safely finished their test, and the American campaign for dressage is done, with, of course, cross-country to come tomorrow for these 4 team riders and the US individual. And Cassie with a 30... We're hearing 30.2. I'm actually being told 30.8. We shall see. Yeah, Cassie sang a 30.2, so that's top 5. And in terms of the US performance, then, that of course counts. It is their best performance, as you often expect from the number 4 rider. And the US, thanks to Cassie, sitting on 97.1. So exactly 2 points difference between Great Britain and the USA, the first 2 teams to post their whole score.
So that gives the United States of America team 97.1. So at present, Great Britain sitting on 95.1 and the United States of America on 97.1.
So France, Ireland, Germany still to post their scores.
into the main arena. The fourth team member for France, Charlotte Bordas. Charlotte rides number 303, Asboy de Kappa. This is a Self-Française, 16-year-old chestnut gelding by Tinker's Boy, out of Osoris de Costa by Roseri. This one bred by Sebastian Palou, and the owners, Sebastian Palou.
Charlotte Bordas is going to be our next to go and the final rider for France. The target here for her is 28 penalties. That is a score, if Charlotte could deliver it, would put France in front of Great Britain. So a little bit of work to do, what with our best score being just slightly in front of that, 27.6 from the world #1 ranked U25 rider, Calvin Bockman. But Charlotte is another rider who brings the experience of having been the Young Rider European champion, taking that gold at the U21s in 2023. Asboy de Kappa was her Young Rider horse then for a 4th place French team at Young Riders. Again, experience on the Nations Cup squads for France, with that experience coming last year at Avanches. And this is, I think, our second by Tinker's Boy over the course of the U25 championships as well. Just riding that first half circle and picking up a nice half pass back to the boards here as they get their trot work underway. But already you can see, you know, it's not going to be disastrous, but we're not looking like this is going to be a 28 penalty test. So France are going to be behind Great Britain and almost certainly the USA as things progress here through this French test. Now, the other thing, of course, is with Clara Cazeneuve and Dolce Gabbana being the best score, 31.7, you've then got a 35 and a 37 for France. So Charlotte here in the ring will be absolutely determined to be a counting score, which is what the team management will have expected when they put her in the #4 slot. Setting up for this flying change here. It looks pretty good. That will help the score get closer and closer to 30 penalties and closer to being potentially the best French team riders score. They're not far off being that at the moment. Whilst we have a number of team medalists with us across all the youth championships, it's quite exciting to have a couple of individual young rider gold medalists with us in the field here for Millstreet. Another good change as well. You know, it's clean, it's quiet. For sure, there's more pizzazz, more power that can come in those changes for very, very big marks, but let's see whether Charlotte's going to just quite be able to catch Clara Cazeneuve's 31.7. It looks like it might not come to be, but it will be a counting score for the French team. But with Great Britain on 95, USA on 97, France might have to settle for being on just over 100 points with best 3 scores counting. So Charlotte Bordas with the Tinker's Boy bred 16-year-old Self-Français Asboy de Kappa completing their test and completing France's dressage campaign. Score coming in very quickly for Charlotte is going to be 33.0, and therefore France will be on 100.3 with Clara Casanova, Charlotte Bodas and Faustine Fourouz 31, 33 and 35 penalty scores counting.
For the fourth team member from France, as by the Kappa, 33.0. And that gives France a final total score, team score, of 100.3. So just two more team members to go. The team member, fourth team member for Ireland, and the fourth team member for Germany. We now welcome into the main arena here at Millstreet the fourth team member for Ireland. This is Godfrey Gibbons. Godfrey rides number 307, Ballyvillan OBOS.
Final team rider then for Ireland, Godfrey Gibbons, Ballyvillan OBOS. No surprise, this one by OBOS quality. Robbie co-owns the 13-year-old Irish sport horse with Richard Ames, for whom Godfrey rides at his County Kilkenny base. Godfrey, the world number 10 in the U25 rankings. He is 22 years old and already 4 youth championship appearances for the young talent. This is a new horse for Godfrey this year, with Milcombe Free Spirit having been his top horse for championships in the past. But this horse has been to the 5-star level with Irish rider Robbie Cairns. So Ballyvillan OBOS and Godfrey Gibbons now will hope that they can really make all of their experience individually and over the last year as a partnership come together now for Ireland. Ireland with that very, very strong score already for Jennifer Kuhnle and Sammy Davis Jr. With the 32 then from Tom Nestor, 41 from Isney O'Donnell. They would hope that would be their discard score, and actually a score here of 35 or better would be very, very useful for Ireland. So Robbie Cairns rode this horse at both Le Moulin and Pau in the 2024 season. Godfrey, a winner in the 3-star long at Ballindennis this year on a sub-30 score. And here in Millstreet at the May event in the 4-star short, scored a 31 for 10th place in the final analysis of that division. And a little bit off that mark today, but a 31, as I say, would be super useful for Ireland. Even on Godfrey's current score, Ireland would be going into the current team lead. And now, as we get closer and closer to 31, that potential improves. And again, it would be great to just get that extra point, because even where we are with the strong scores for Ireland, it means that Germany only need to produce about a 32.5 themselves. 32.7 would do it, and they would be in front of Ireland. So it is very, very needle, and we'll see exactly what Nicholas Goldbeck, final team rider for Germany, does in a moment or two. You can see also in the background there how very, very quickly the rank changes, even with fractions of a penalty, as you get closer and closer to 30 points. So 31 and up into the top 10, just coming around off the extension here to the second and final flying change. Nice. One of the most difficult things about commentating eventing dressage is getting them, even though it's just a single change, getting them to have the lift and the clarity in that change. So that is a very, very strong moment in this pair's partnership. And of course, as the tests get trickier and trickier, bringing in 4 changes at the 5-star level, to have secure changes like that, very, very useful. And we'll see now, because it just takes, like, we are looking live at maybe just outside the top 5. There's also a suggestion that a mere fraction of a penalty would put him up into 4th position, and that's what the big screen behind the judge at sea was saying. So what's it going to be here for Godfrey Gibbons and Ballyvilane OBOS? It will be a contributing score to the Irish performance, and it will be as close as he can get it to Sammy Davis Jr., ridden by Jenny Kuhnle, sitting on the individual podium still on 29.2.
So far. Oh, that puts Ireland at present up into first place with a total score.
So they're talking here at the arena about the provisional scores. Just going to wait for it to come through for Godfrey Gibbons and Ballyvilane, but I think anything we saw is going to put Ireland into the lead. It's just the detail and what exactly those scores are going to be. And of course, Godfrey's own individual ranking. I mean, looking at the screen in the ring, we see Godfrey listed as 4th place. So Joey in front of Lisa Gautieri and Edonis.
The 4th team rider, Nicholas Goldbeck. Nicholas rides number 313, Chintano 7. This is a horse diner, 14-year-old chestnut gelding by Chin Champ, out of a failure by Exorbitant. The breeder was Thomas Gerken, and the owners are Jane Goldbeck and the rider, Nicholas Goldbeck.
So Nicholas Goldbeck and Chintano. Final rider of the dressage of this World Championships, and final rider for Germany, to see whether they are going to be our team in gold medal position going into the second day of sport. Nicholas Goldbeck and Cintano have twice represented Germany at the CCI 3-Star Short European Cup competition. Have quite a bit of 4-star short experience. They were winners earlier on this year at one of the smaller meetings at Le Moulin at the 2-star level, and a recent 4-star run of results, all sub-35, and sub-35 is what they need. We are now getting our provisional score for Godfrey Gibbons and Ballyvillan OBOS, 29.9, so he not only moves into 4th, he becomes the 4th rider only to be sub-30 penalties, and it means that Ireland's target is 91.8, so we can actually work out now what Nicholas needs to be scoring. And actually, Ireland and Godfrey have made it pretty tough. 30.1, so even where he was a second ago on 30.8 wasn't enough. 30.0 is enough, but here we are. We're only just at the rein-back. There's a good bit of trot to go, there's all the walk to go, there's all the canter to go. And even if Germany can't get in front of Ireland, with the score here of Nicholas Goldbeck and Cintano, that is still going to leave our team competition on an absolute knife edge. I mean, Germany, with the score that they have at the moment, are well within the mix of the 5 teams. So before you even discard Anne-Catherine Bierlijns, the mathematics of this only came across as we got Godfrey's score. So it's not like Nicholas is in here with a target in mind exactly, but certainly knowing that he has to try and achieve amongst the very best. And that again is the pressure. That is the, you know, pressure is a privilege, and the privilege is riding for your country, but it comes with pressure. So I think we'll see once the flying change score hits that graphic. Yeah, look at that, 343 are the scores. So that has drifted the 31. We're looking at our graphic out to a 33 and some change. Can Nicholas get this one a little bit tidier and tighter? Yeah. So actually a good second change, and that's pleasing. That'll keep them in the hunt here. It may be just a little bit tight in the contact, but, you know, really big extension there. Rides for it. I can tell you, sadly, the corner of our screen has not quite kept pace with the scores. So the 31 that would do the business is not going to be quite where Nicholas ends up. We will actually see that in just a moment. But as I say, it needs to be 30.1. So even the 31.0, I tell you a lie, wouldn't quite do the business here for the German rider. But it's not only about being in the lead today. That's a great privilege. But it is about all 3 days and who, which nation, which individual are going to be the ones that we are chasing here on Sunday as the show jumping brings this inaugural FEI Eventing World Championships for under 25 riders to its conclusion. So we're looking set. Even with this change, we get the replay of a score inside the top 10. I think we're going to see sub-32 penalties for Niklas and Cintano. And therefore, we'll see. I believe it's going to put Germany into second place. Great support there, including the earlier German rider, Linus, nearest to us in the tailcoat. And just waiting for the final scores to come through from the judges. And of course, all of the tallying up of team scores. Nicholas Goldbeck and Cintano, 31.6, top 10. And Germany then on 94.9 for silver medal position. Ireland on 91.8. Germany 94.9. Great Britain 95.1. USA 97.1. And France 100.1, counting the best 3 dressage scores. So there are 9 penalties less, covering the entire group going into cross-country here tomorrow at Millstreet for the inaugural FEI Eventing World Championships. In the individual leaderboard, it is Clara Cazeneuve, French team rider, in 10th. Nicholas Goldbeck and Cintano for the German team in 9th. Barney Brotherson, British individual, DHI King Nelson in 8th. Matilda Piovani and Bourne West in 7th, individual. Fernhill Zorro for the USA and the team, Cassie Sanger in 6th. 5th, Adonis Lisa Gautieri on 30 penalties exactly, French individual. Ballyvillain OBS, Godfrey Gibbons, the Irish team anchor, 29.9 for 4th. Indian Girl G, Jasmine Underwood, the British team anchor, in 3rd on 29.3 in bronze medal position. In silver medal position, 29.2 for Jennifer Kuhnle and Sammy Davis Jr., who went so early for the Irish team. Calvin Bachmann and Alter de la Sens, the #1 for his team, is our individual leader on 27.6. We hope you'll come back and join us on FEI TV tomorrow for all of the cross-country action. There on your screen, look above the sand arenas, the line of trees running through the beautiful Moan area. That is the Dressage Castle Estate, and that is where the cross-country, built by Mike Etherington-Smith, will play out its part of the FEI Eventing World Championships for U25 riders. Story here from Millstreet this weekend. Back then over to the Green Glens Arena here at Millstreet for the show jumping finale on Sunday, and we hope you'll be along for the ride with us here on FEI TV.